Hello, and thank you for joining me on my hobby adventure. I'm Dan, and this is Forlorn Hobbies. Welcome to episode 4 in the Quick and Easy Painting series. In today's episode, we will be looking at the brave chosen men of the Sharpe series, or the British Napoleonic rifles. In this video, we will be looking at two alternative regiments, the 60th American Rifles and the 95th Chosen Men themselves. Now, we will not necessarily be sticking to the utmost historical accuracy, but being heavily influenced by the Sharpe TV series, as I am painting these models for myself and for a small project that I have going on with Tim at Napoleonic Wargaming, where we are trying to come up with a rules system that we can recreate Sharpe's adventures on the tabletop with. The models supplied are by Wargames Atlantic, and I'm very happy with how these models look, although there are a few issues for me, like the size of the rifle. It looks very fiddly and fine, and I think that sometimes there's a slight bit of detail that's been sacrificed just to make them fit the plastic molds, but overall they are a great product. Here is a list of paints that I will be using throughout this video. All the paints are from Citadel, as that is my preferred brand. However, there are conversion charts online that you can use to see what colour is best in your own range that you prefer, so you can kind of match them up. I started by priming the miniatures with grey cere before applying them to their MDF bases. Now, I did this separately because I wanted to carry on my British Napoleonic basing scheme, which is to use the Geek Gaming ready basing mix, so it just makes it look a bit more natural than having the white, off-white colour showing through on the basing afterwards. Now, we will start by painting the colour that covers the majority of the miniature, which of course is their jacket uniform. And for this, I've gone with that dark green, or Dark Angels green contrast paint. Now, I'm going to take care to apply this to try and avoid all the areas that have other details that we want to use contrast for. However, if you get any paint on these areas, you can easily just touch them up before the next stage with a bit of thinned down grey cere paint. Now, for the 95th rifles, we will paint the whole model, the jacket and the trousers, in that dark green, whereas if you want to paint the 60th rifles, then just paint the jacket green. Next, we will take Basilicanum Grey to paint the rolled up greatcoat on the top of the backpack, and if we are painting the 60th rifles, we will also apply this to the trousers. Again, just take care whilst applying this. However, if the area that it goes onto is going to be black, then it isn't the end of the world, and you can just leave this because the black contrast should cover this quite easily. Now we're going to start filling in the black areas with our first black, which is Black Templar. For this we will paint the shako, the backpack itself, and the boots of the miniature. Now we'll take great care with this one to cover all the relevant areas. However, any mistakes again can be touched up with a bit of thinned down grey cere. we will take snakebite leather to apply this to the knapsack and leather pouches on the model, as well as painting the hair of the rifleman as well. We'll use wildwood to fill in the rifle itself, just to give it that dark wooden texture. Now try and take care, especially when going around the hands. However, again, we can always touch this up with a little bit of grey cere if necessary. But try and be neat, because that will speed up the process even more. After tidying up any necessary overspills onto the skin areas, we will apply dark oak flesh to the face and the hands of the model. Before moving on, we will use grey cere to tidy up all of the remaining areas, including the collars and the cuffs, the piping on the uniform, and the straps and plume on the shako and backpack, getting them ready for the next stages of painting. I've taken Black Legion to paint the leather straps on both regiments. Now, this black contrast is slightly more thicker than Black Templar, so it has a darker coverage. However, if you do not want to buy additional paints, then Black Templar will work just as well here. But I just wanted to vary the finish a little bit. Now, moving on to the 95th Regiment specifically, we will also use the Black Legion to paint the collars and cuffs of the rifleman's jacket to denote that regimental colour. To paint the collars, cuffs and the trims on the uniform of the 60th Regiment, we will use Blood Angel's Red contrast paint. Now, this is essential with this stage specifically, that we take our time and are very neat with a controlled brush, just to avoid that red bleeding into areas that we have already done, because this will be quite hard to rectify without going back to the beginning and starting again in that specific area. At this point, we will return to using Dark Angel's green contrast to paint the detailing on the shako, with the plume and the straps around it. We'll use Space Wolf Grey to paint the water canteen on the back of the model, and we'll paint it in this colour to blend it in with the line infantry troops that we have already painted. We'll use grey cere to prep all the white areas. This includes just tidying up the piping on the backpacks and the smaller straps, as well as specifically for the 95th, the trims on the collar and cuffs. We'll move on to the metallic areas. First of all, we will use Leadbelcher to paint the buttons and the gun barrel and various locks and stuff on the gun itself. Any remaining details will be painted using Retributor Armour. This is mainly the icon on the Shako and just a few other little bits of details here and there on the model. To finish off the metal areas, a wash of Agrax Earthshade will be applied to both the gold and lead belcher. Now, this is a personal preference. You can change the wash to a black wash for the metals and a sepia wash or flesh wash for the gold, but my preference is just to blend them both together with one brown wash. At this point, we could leave the model here at a reasonable tabletop standard. However, there are a few further stages that I'm going to add just to emphasize certain areas and offer a bit more distinction between the two uniforms. Now, going back to that Sharpe inspiration, the 95th Chosen Men have a more vibrant green colour, so I will dry brush over the green areas with a Caliban green. Before going on to the 60th rifles, which are very dirty in appearance, as Fredrickson says, men are dirty, rifles are clean, sir, to Sharpe. I will then take a more earthy green, in this case a Castellan green, and dry brush the green areas of the jacket on the 60th rifle. I'm then going to take Mechanicus Standard Grey and dry brush the trousers of the 60th rifles, just to give a little bit of extra definition, as well as the rims of the Shako. And this will be done on both models. We're going to take the skin a step further by highlighting it with Kislev flesh. Now we're going to focus on the knuckle joints, the raised areas of the hands, and the cheekbones, nose, and chin of the face, just to make it pop that little bit more. To emphasize those white areas, we are going to use Arctic White to just highlight the white straps on the backpacks, and when it comes to the 95th, we will also use it to emphasize the piping on the collars and cuffs. Now, we don't need to go over all the areas, just the raised areas that draw sunlight, or natural light, as it were. Finally, to finish off the model, we are going to use a Baden Black just to add a bit more depth and emphasis to the straps on both regiments and the collars and cuffs of the 95th Regiment facings specifically. Now, to base the miniatures, I will be using the Geek Gaming Scenics Ready Basing range. I think it's scrublands, to keep it matching the rest of my British army. So I will apply the fast drying basing glue, dipping the model in the mix, and then once that has dried for about 12 hours overnight, I will apply some sealant to the base and let that dry for another day or so before finishing the model. Now it's time for a final reveal. Now here we have a couple of riflemen painted up in both the 95th Regiment colours and the 60th Regiment colours. Now this episode was heavily influenced by the amazing Sharpe TV series, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Now please put in the comments if there's anything you would like to see a guide on, and remember that quick and easy painting is aimed at beginners and people that just want to get models on the tabletop quickly rather than an in-depth high-level painting guide. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Until next time, enjoy your hobby.